Presentation Skills for Design Students, Episode 38. Are you a design student or graduate who wants to succeed in the professional world? If so, keep listening. You are about to discover how to get noticed, land your dream job, and have an awesomely successful career. It's all about being able to speak, present, and communicate like a boss. So let's get to it. Hi everyone and welcome back to the show. I'm podcasting to you this week from Austin, Texas. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I've done an episode and I apologize for that. You know, I've been doing a lot of thinking recently and it's led me to a decision which is actually, it's quite a big decision, and I'm going to be announcing what that decision is at the end of the show. So make sure you stay tuned for that very special announcement. Anyway, this week on the show, I'm very excited to be featuring Volker Jansen from Swinburne University, which is a university in my beloved hometown, Melbourne, Australia. Now, Volker is originally from Germany, which explains the really cool name, but he's been in Australia for a number of years and has been the Employment and Information Programs Officer at Swinburne University for the past 5 years. He works closely with employers and students, and he knows exactly what employers are looking for when recruiting new graduates. So make sure to listen in if you want to find out how to make yourself more employable and how to make employees come to you and how to get a job without the relevant experience, even when they say that you need it. The show notes for this episode will be at designdrawspeak.com/038. And make sure you stay tuned for that very special announcement at the end. So sit back and enjoy, and please welcome Mr. Volker Jansen. Volker, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yes, hello. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. Now, I really appreciate you spending some time with me today because I know you have a lot of valuable stuff to share, and I know that the students and graduates listening will get a lot of value out of this. But firstly, can you just tell us about your role at Swinburne University?
Yes, I am somebody who's in a dual role. I am the Employment and Information Programs Officer at Swinburne Centre for Career Development. I look after the website, but also more importantly, what I look after is the students, of course, and the employment fairs, the careers conferences, and things like that. Major parts of my role are actually to get employers, particularly graduate employers, in contact with students and vice versa. So if employers come on campus, want to provide an employer information session, tell students about internships, industry-based learning, any other programs, and of course graduate programs, I organize that for these employers, and also I do the targeted emails out to students and advertise it on the student database. So it's a good idea to have somebody in place who knows a bit about IT and has good communication skills.
Now, you deal with a lot of employers, right, that come to these job fairs and are trying to recruit students for them.
Yep.
So what's the number one quality or skill or trait that they look for in potential employees?
That's an interesting question. Over the past few years, the emphasis on skills has changed totally, although they're still looking like if you want somebody for an engineering job, of course, these students need to have some skills in terms of engineering. But what they're more emphasizing on now are the soft skills. So it's more important for students to actually be a good fit to the organization. That actually means that they have the skills to, that they know a bit about showing leadership, that they can organize themselves, that they know how to work in an industry environment, in a professional environment. All these things, they're way more important nowadays.
So if they're an employer's at a job fair, how can they tell this from meeting a student? Or like how can a student actually communicate this, that they do have these qualities?
Of course, you won't find out by shaking their hand and saying hello. I mean, it takes a little bit more. That's true. I might add here that we've moved away from the traditional employment fair because we don't see that they're very effective anymore.
Oh,
Instead,
right.
Yeah, what we're doing instead is that we're now providing a careers conference. So the concept here is that students and employers get together, and there is a program that we put together, and this program is focused on employability. But we don't facilitate this program alone. The reason to invite employers is that they help us with this task. So these employers are invited and encouraged to tell students what they actually need from a student, and this is from an employability perspective. That's what we're telling the employers then. What we wanted to have was students who are really committed, students who had some drive to come along and participate in a program that would run a whole day. And it worked perfectly. We had around about 150 students were allowed to come along. And yes, on top of that, the employers just got what they wanted, top students.
Okay, so we were talking earlier about, I mean, you mentioned earlier about how job fairs are now becoming obsolete, and that's why you're doing these conferences.
Yes.
And we
Yep.
we were also talking, I mean, before we started this interview, we were talking about how social media is becoming more important for students. Can we talk about LinkedIn
Yeah,
and
certainly.
why students should really focus on getting their profiles up to scratch?
Yes, of course. The reach that you get with putting yourself out there on the web, putting your profile there as a professional, and letting your audience know who you are and what you stand for is a totally different concept than writing cover letters and resumes on a one-to-one basis. So there's something coming in, there's an interesting job. What you do is you write your cover letter, you write your resume, sometimes you write some selection criteria, and you send it in and wait for somebody to come back to you.
Do employers not even bother with that anymore? Like with
Well,
cover letters and resumes?
they still do because the majority of applications they receive are still cover letters and resumes, so they have to. But they they screen them quite vigorously. If they don't find anything interesting in the cover letter in the first 5 seconds, they'll just dump it. So you have to be very, very careful about how to put your cover letter together. I mean, of course, you have to be very careful how to put your LinkedIn profile together as well. But if you've got it in a place where it's constantly available, that's something totally different rather than reacting to an advertisement that you find somewhere, because you're out there all the time, 24 hours, 7 days a week with your profile. And if a recruiter comes along on LinkedIn, does a search and finds your profile because your profile matches what they're searching for, it's a way more effective way of getting recognized as a
So
student.
it's like being proactive as opposed to being reactive.
Absolutely. Yep, that's the big difference there. And I'm sure you've heard about the ongoing discussions that the resume is dead and so on and so forth. I think this is if you look at it from technology, from people who know a bit about technology, in particular the web and everything, of course that's true, but not everybody, and I'm talking about employers as well as students. Not everybody knows about the big differences between doing something in the physical world and doing something on the web, which is basically cyberspace and is available all around the world. While the physical place is confined in location and all that sort of stuff.
So with LinkedIn,
Yep.
I know that if you have experience, it's very easy to sort of beef it up and really fill it out. But what can a student do if they have little or no work experience? How can they increase their employability or improve their employability through their LinkedIn profile?
The employability part is it's not so much about work experience. The employability part is more about to know how to actually advertise yourself. That's what the employability part is about. You know how to um, develop a cover letter, you know how to develop a resume, you know how to develop your LinkedIn profile, and you know what the demands are. That's what employability is about. The work experience part does not really fit in with the employability part. The work experience part is something that's very important as well. I agree with that. But I think the difficulties that a lot of students have with this concept is that they misunderstand it. We often get inquiries at the front desk at our office from students who ask us, yeah, I want to apply for this job, but they're asking me to have work experience, but I'm only learning this job. the thing that these employers are asking is not so much that you actually know what you're studying, because of course it doesn't make sense to study something that you know about. What they're actually asking is that you know your way around in a work environment. That's all that they need to know. If you
Hang on,
as a
wait, say that.
student,
Wait, say that again. So even if they're asking for experience,
yes,
that doesn't necessarily mean that you need work experience.
it means that you need work. You don't necessarily need work experience in the field that you're applying for. You just need some general work experience. So what they're saying is it doesn't really matter that you haven't worked in the environment that you're actually studying for. It means that you have to have work experience in any environment, in any professional environment. So if you've been working, I don't know, on a sales floor at Myers, or if you've been working on a petrol station or anything, or as an
At a
office
juice
help.
bar.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. The difference really is, do you understand what it's like to work? That's what they're asking. Do you know what it's like to be in a work environment, in a professional environment where you've got a manager, where you've got colleagues, and where you have to deal with difficult situations and stuff like that? That's what they're asking you if they ask for work experience.
Okay. So even if you only have, say, like a casual job as a sales assistant or a waitress or
That's
something,
right.
you can still put in you can put that into your LinkedIn profile. And this is something that I try and encourage people to do, is to share on your profile what you learnt from that job.
Yes,
What were
exactly.
the challenges that you faced? What
Yes,
did you do to, overcome those challenges, and what did you do to
absolutely.
take initiative, and what did you learn from that process?
That
You
is
know,
exactly what they're looking for. Exactly.
so many LinkedIn profiles I see, people go, "Oh, I did in this role, I did this, I did this, I did that, I did that," and I'm like, that is just boring. That tells me
Exactly.
absolutely nothing. So
Absolutely right.
yeah, so I love that you brought that up, because really, and what you said at the very start, just being a good fit for a company is more important than your grades or your experience.
Well, that's right. I don't say that grades are unimportant, but it's not the first criteria anymore, and that's so
Mm.
interesting about it. For example, another thing that's happening is um, accounting organizations, the large ones, the international ones like Deloitte's, KPMG, Ernst and Young, all those big organizations, they actually hire engineers now. And you wonder why they hire engineers. And I've been asking one of those graduate recruiters about this, and they say, well, these people know a lot about numbers. And if they find out during their studies that they don't really want to work in a mine, or do anything like construction work or mechanical work or anything like that, this is a second opportunity for them to come on board with us. I think that is quite a brave move. Because they're engineers. Of course, if you go into an engineering course, you don't go into an engineering course to end up with an accounting organization or
No.
anything like that. But it's a second opportunity. So it clearly defines, or is proof that this is not the major criteria anymore. They can always form you to what they actually need from you. What the university does is they give these students the foundations, and it's always been like that, that the employers take these students on board and then hone them so that they actually fit the work environment of where they're actually ending up.
Mm.
It's a different thing then. And that's I think that's also the reason why they decided, yes, of course, you have to have these skills, but these are the basic skills. What's more important is, do your soft skills actually fit our cultural environment at this organization? And of course, I think, when you think about it, it's just logical, isn't it? Of course, you have all those skills, but if you just don't fit in, what's the point? It'll be
Yeah, this
it'll
is true.
it'll be an awful it'll be an awful environment for both parties. So nobody wins.
And if you can just show them that you're willing to learn, then like it's like you said, they can mold you to learn the skills, or to do what they need you to do at their company. You don't need
Yes.
to be from that industry anyway.
No, it can be related, just like like I said, if it's about numbers, of course, makes sense, yes. But again, the if you graduate after 5 years of an engineering degree, it's up to you to decide to go into an accounting firm, or if you want to continue to pursue what you've been working for 5 years.
Well, I think that gives students hope anyway. If you're
Yeah,
so if you're getting coming towards the end of your degree and you're thinking, I don't know if I really want to pursue this, it's totally fine. Just go for it. Just find. I mean, this is something that when I started architecture, I didn't know if I was going to end up working for an architecture firm, but I thought, you know what, I like the course. It's teaching me a lot, and I thought, and at the end of it, I'll just find companies that resonate with me in terms of their culture and their approach and the work that they do, and just go for that rather than going, well, I have to find a firm that suits, my degree.
yeah. Yeah, I totally understand what you mean there. You know, the funny thing is what I experience with the change in the way that people talk or communicate with each other, in particular, thinking about the web, is that we're more like individuals nowadays than groups. So it's more about yourself than about a group that you would align yourself to. So as some kind of a side effect, it is like you're moving away from this institutionalization of everything. It's more about individualization, and I think that's a positive thing. It is that you actually have more opportunities to find something that you really like, rather than do something that you think is necessary because somebody tells you. You find your own way. Um, in particular in trying to find a job, I think that's a great advantage. And it's easier, if you look at things like LinkedIn or, as I said, using WordPress or a me website to express yourself as a professional, it's so much easier to get into contact with other individuals who might have the same interests, and maybe, I don't know, create your own business together, or go part of the way together as professionals. It's way easier than it was in the past.
Even if you are not thinking about starting your own business or doing your own freelancing, having that personal brand and by building up an online presence is going to really just help you, even if you are working for someone else, because everyone needs to have this sort of this personal brand out there on the web, starting with your LinkedIn profile, and then maybe you share stuff on, I don't know, Instagram, or maybe you blog or whatever. But it's going to
Yeah,
help you for when you say, if you want to move on or if you want to change course or whatever, you need to continue to do that to show people that you are staying proactive.
exactly. And brought up a very, very important point there that I would like to emphasize on, in terms of creative jobs. I think what's really advantages what's really a great advantage for these people is that you can put a portfolio out there, and that portfolio is everywhere at the same time. Everybody can have a look at it and see if you're great at what you're doing. And I think as a creative, that's so much more important, than having your hard copy at home somewhere, and then, yeah, trying to, deliver it to somebody on an interview, or, so it's just, that you're out there. You're a
Yeah,
presence. It's so much easier, honestly. That's what I think.
you're making yourself findable rather
Exactly.
than you're putting yourself out there and letting people find you. And
Yeah.
that's going to open up way more opportunities than if you are like targeting specific things and not showing anyone else.
Yes, exactly.
Can we talk about trust for a
Yes.
moment?
Yes, of course.
You mentioned to me earlier that trust is so important when you're building your online presence, and then and you're talking about how important it is that your your physical presence has to completely match that online presence. Can you explain what that means?
Yes. The online presence is basically a reflection of yourself. It's not exactly yourself. It's something that you put out there to give people an idea of who you are. But of course, it's not you. It's a digital representation of yourself. But to create trust, you have to make sure that that is an adequate presentation of yourself. So, coming back to something like a LinkedIn profile, you could put all sorts of stuff out there. You could call yourself a professor. You could come up with some idea that you're an academic in something. But if people find out that this is all bogus, this is where you make the big mistake, because it's not only between you and that particular person. The 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 flaw will be visible around the world. So it's like a stain on you, and to get that stain away, that is really, really hard, because there'll be traces everywhere. As soon as somebody shares it, there's another instance of that problem, and then they share it with other people, and it's just growing.
So I guess students have to be, well, I guess we all do, we have to be consistent within our different social media platforms as well, like how we're represented, right? Because I
Yes.
mean, you can have like a really professional, nice looking LinkedIn profile, but if your Facebook profile is visible to the public or your Instagram is visible to everyone
Yeah.
and it's misrepresenting you there, then it's going to sort of render your LinkedIn profile a little bit obsolete. Like that trust that you build up with other professionals is going to be undermined by the other images that you project of yourself.
Totally right. Yes, I agree. The funny thing is, nice that you actually mentioned that. The funny thing is that a lot of recruiters do this. They go to your LinkedIn profile, and then they just go to Google and then put your name in there and see what they find. And of course,
Oh,
all sorts of profiles will pop up there. There'll be all sorts of images popping up there, and yeah, so that's the threat that you put on yourself if you're not concise about yourself. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't have fun on Facebook or any other social media channels, because of course that's what they're there for. Um, but to to
but just
to
keep
see
it private.
Yes, exactly. That's one thing, and also another thing is you also have to consider cultural differences. If you want to work on an international scale, that makes it way more difficult. If you want to, let's say, work in Japan, what's inappropriate in Japan might be totally appropriate in the USA or Australia or anywhere in the Western world, but you're not aware about that. So that's where you have to do your homework. If you want to develop your professional profile, and if you want to go international, that's where you have to consider all of these things.
Yeah, but it all comes down to what your goals are and what you want to
Yeah,
achieve. And
yes,
once you know what
exactly.
your goal is, you can do your research and find out and work towards that.
That's right.
Now for
Absolutely.
students graduating soon, what would be your advice? What's one thing that they can do in order to make themselves more
Employable.
employable?
Yeah.
Mm.
I would say start early. I wouldn't say that they would have to prepare themselves for after university at the beginning of their studies, but at least 2 years before you start, you should make sure that you know how to apply for a job. You know what recruiters are looking for. You know what it means when you read an advertisement, a job advertisement, what they're actually asking for, and you learn how to do your research about the organization. And also, another important thing is find out if that organization is actually what you really want to go for. Um, it's not enough to just go for a funky organization. When you look at IT people, everybody wants to go to Google or everybody wants to go to Apple. Of course, they're cool brands, but are they having a cool work environment? That's the more important thing that you have to think about. So doing your research actually means that you go out there and see what it's like. What is it that they can offer. Um, a great opportunity, which is way underutilized by students, is employer information sessions. All universities do that. Graduate employers, they come out to those campuses of those universities and introduce their organization and their program to the students and tell them, okay, in a year's time, this is what you could do if you apply now. What Talking about that, another issue that I see with students is that a lot of them don't realize that it takes the large organizations almost a year until they decide who they're going to take on board for their next graduate intake. So if you want to, for example, go with large organizations for a graduate program in 2015, because you graduate before that, you would have to have your application in around March, April the year before. That's where they start.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where they start their application process. It's a really long and slow process, but when you look at the facts that there, for example, I've heard from Ernst and Young only recently that they get in Australia nationwide, they get about 3,500 applications per year, and they only fill 11,
Wow.
11 positions. And then they tell you, out of these 11, we've got eight who've been in internships, and yeah, we take them over. So if you apply for a job there, it boils down to three out of 3,500, which is actually ridiculous. Um, what you can do there is actually not go for the big funky ones. Try with a small organization because a lot of them are actually happy to take students on board. The only difference is that they don't have a fully fledged graduate program. Of course, a graduate program is a fantastic thing, but on the other hand, if you go with a small to medium business, the flexibility is way more interesting because you're not institutionalized there. You're not
Mm.
going through this program. You're in a work environment where everybody has to care about everything. And this flexibility you can use and then later on apply for a full job at these larger organizations. Actually, for a lot of students, this is quite a shortcut rather than, desperately trying to send out 400, 500 applications and getting nothing back because they're just going to the big ones where everybody's going.
And they're probably more accessible too. Like with the smaller to medium firms, you can go find the directors on LinkedIn and kind of
Yeah,
stalk them.
yeah, you can actually be invited to have a chat, and then sit in the boardroom with the boss, and yeah, and then see what's in it for you. It's way more casual than going with the big ones. I'm not saying that they're bad. For God's sake, if they hear this interview, no, but
No, it all depends on what suits the
yeah,
individual.
exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
And you say, they might get offered to have a chat. I would say like ask for a chat, go find it. Go
Yes.
approach them and say, I'd love to learn more about your company and what you do. I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I want to do when I graduate. I would love to meet with you and maybe interview you.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, that is the great thing about it, you just be open, you just tell them what you think and be honest about your approach. And that actually attracts a lot of these people, that they find out that you're somebody who's actually trying to find a job, who tells you what they want to do and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a great way to go with
Hmm.
small to medium businesses.
All right. On that motivational note, I say we we got to wrap up this interview, Volker. But it's been so great having you on the show, and you've shared a lot of really useful stuff. And I hope that students take all this on board and get out there and start beefing up their LinkedIn profile. If you don't know how to do it, Google it, or you can ask me. You can send me an email. I'm happy to help out. And I know, Volker, you're on Twitter, aren't you?
I am.
If people want to get in touch with you, send you a tweet, maybe ask you a question, how can they get in touch with you on Twitter and other
They can just.
platforms?
I think the best way would actually be I've got two Twitter accounts. I've got my professional one and I've got another one which is basically my private one. But I only use my private one for professional conversations. So yeah, one is Swin Careers. That's one of them, and the other
That's the
one is
uni one.
simply
Yep.
yeah, that's the uni one, and the other one is Volker Jansen in one word.
Okay. And that's VOLKERJANSSEN. Yes?
That is it.
All right. I got it. Awesome.
Okay.
And
Yes.
the university is Swinburne Careers. That's where you're working.
Yeah,
That's what you're in charge of.
Swinburne University. Yeah, just to wrap up about Swinburne University. Swinburne University is a dual sector university, one out of five in Australia. So we have a TAFE division and a higher education division. There's three faculties in higher education. One is science, engineering, and technology. The other one is health, arts, and design, and the third one is the faculty of business and enterprise. There's around about 35,000 students enrolled. We have an online university as well, which is called Swinburne Online. It's a co-project between the Seek database and Swinburne University. And also, what else can I tell you? Oh, yes, we are very, very proud of our engineering and technology part because that is where we have a lot of research grants and where we get a lot of interest from business and yeah, a lot of people coming on board and wanting to get engineering and IT students from Swinburne.
Okay. Yeah, and I really love the initiative you've been taking with the careers conferences as well. I think that's an awesome idea, and that's something I would have totally loved to have got involved in when I
Yes.
was studying. So I think it's great what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Christina. We also think that it's a great idea because it was about time to come up with something different that was more efficient, and yeah, we just jumped in on the deep side, and obviously we can swim.
It's working. Good on you, Volker. Thank you so much again.
No worries. See you then, Christina.
Thanks again to Volker Jansen for being an amazing guest on my podcast this week. Of course, I will put links to how you can contact him in the show notes at designdrawspeak.com/038. Now, I did say at the start of the show that I was going to be announcing something, and here it is. This is the last podcast episode that I will be doing for presentation skills for design students. It actually, it makes me sad to hear myself say that. It's been a really, really fun journey, and I've really enjoyed it. I just feel like I want to take this in a new direction, and I want to focus and, I guess, expand at the same time. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be rebranding the podcast and the blog to be targeting architects. So solely focused on architects. And my goal is to help architects achieve the career goals that they want while maintaining a balanced lifestyle. Because this is something that I know a lot of people struggle with. It's a very demanding career, but the people who do it, they love it. And I want to be able to help people achieve their goals and their dreams, and to be able to live and do what they're passionate about, while also being healthy, being balanced, and being able to do all those other fun things in life. Because I believe there's no point in just spending your entire life just working. So the topics I'll be looking to cover will be to do with productivity and job hunting, of course, communication skills and personal branding, but also health and how to achieve work-life balance, how to build up your confidence and things like that. That's the project that I'm working on at the moment. I don't know when it will be released. I haven't even yet decided on the name, something like Creative Life Architect or creativecareerarchitect.com. But it's all about being able to help architects design their creative lives the right way and being productive and happy. So I am a bit sad that this podcast is coming to an end, but I really hope that you've got something out of it and that you continue to go back to previous episodes and listen, because I still believe that the content is really valuable. And I've loved being able to help so many of you out there, and I thank you so much for listening. I really, really, I know I say this every episode, but I really do appreciate that you're listening. It really means a lot to me, and I do hope that you move over with me to the new podcast. And I will be most likely redirecting the designdrawspeak.com website over to the new site. So when you visit designdrawspeak.com, you won't get lost. Like, you'll still be able to come over and see the new website. If you'd like to hear announcements of when this new project is going to be released, you can sign up to the email list at designdrawspeak.com. Just pop your name and email in there, and I will keep you up to date with everything that's happening. And with that, I'm going to wrap up episode 38, the final episode for presentation skills for design students. Even though this is the end of the podcast, I feel like it is also just the beginning, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. Thank you so much again for listening. You are awesome, and I hope to see you real soon. My name's Christina Canters. Thanks again for listening. This has been Presentation Skills for Design Students, helping you become a confident, creative communicator. You know what? It's the last episode. I'm going to do a special song for you. You super fans who have stayed right till the end. I just had this song in my head. I think it's very apt. You say yes, I say no. You say stop, but I say go, go, go. No, 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 wait, how does it go? I say goodbye, you say hello. No, no, no. Well, I say goodbye, you say hello. Maybe it should be you say goodbye, and I say hello. No, no, no. Oh, no, no, why you say, I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. Bye, peeps.